So SBG Ireland is well known as the gym where Conor McGregor trains in Ireland. It's obviously one of the biggest jiu-jitsu affiliations as well in Ireland. And there's been some recent upheaval from some former SBG black belts who run their own schools and had some issues and ended up leaving SBG. And right now they're actually starting to come out and talk about why they left. So what I wanted to do was have a video where I at least show their half of the story. I haven't been really able to find the SBG half, which would be like John Kavanaugh or Matt Thornton. So it's always worth noting with a story. Usually there's three sides to a story: person A, person B, and then the truth. So we have person A, which would be Tom King and Chris Fields. We don't have person B, which would be Matt Thornton or John Kavanaugh. And then obviously the truth could be either way. So with the lack of having Kavanaugh and Thornton's take on it, I'll try to at least like offer a devil's advocate argument for it, and then just talk about whether or not I think the situation that happened here, whether Thornton and Kavanaugh were doing the right thing but handled it wrong, whether what they were doing in general was wrong, no matter how they handled it, who I think is right in this situation. So where I'll go from here is I'll go to the post that Tom King had put up. So King is one of the top European black belts. I think he might actually be the top black belt in Ireland now, ranked by the IBJJF. But this is what he is saying of why he left. So let's see if this can get pulled up. So it starts off saying, and this is in relation to a meeting. So the main point he's going to get to is that he had a meeting where they brought together all the different SBG school owners and said, okay, starting now, we're going to charge you guys 5,000 euros a year to be a part of the SBG affiliation, and that'll cover both being under the affiliation, but then also handling some small things like having access to use of the logo and having access to social media accounts. So let's read right from the top. So it says, I received 4 separate apologies for the way this was handled afterwards, but remarkably things got worse. Interestingly, this was the first time out of the hundreds of meetings I've attended throughout my working life that I wasn't offered so much as a cup of coffee. We found out about this meeting by a group social media post. Told the host was too busy to answer questions and were advised to bring a solicitor. I was 15 years with SBG and didn't get a phone call. We already had an agreement in writing that did not involve a fee. At the meeting, we were told by a solicitor representing SBG, who was also a blue belt in Concord, that they had secured the European patents to the SBG logo, and anyone using them would be in breach of trademark law. No one talked to me one-on-one. After an American-style video presentation, we were handed the contracts with the 5,000 euro fee and asked to sign. When I questioned why it was so high, I was told by them that it should be twice what we were charging, i.e. 10,000 euros. Myself and Chris Fields gave a strong rebuttal, signed absolutely nothing, and walked out of the meeting. I had 2 one-on-one follow-up meetings with Matt Thornton and John Kavanaugh afterwards. They apologized and offered me the role of head of BJJ for SBG in Ireland. I declined, as this would mean collecting compulsory seminar fees from SBGs to pay the fee and myself. Subsequent to this, myself and Chris were told everything would go back to the way it was, no fee. Days after this message, we were removed from all SBG social media groups and ghosted. And then from here, it also says, after a few months, a group event that was organized by John Kavanaugh and Matt Thornton, which summoned all SBG gyms in Ireland to a meeting in the Sheldon Park Hotel, Dublin. Owen Roddy and Tom King were all there. The purpose of this meeting was to introduce an annual 5,000 euro fee for all SBG gyms in return for business advice, social media support, and affiliation with the SBG brand. So I think this is actually from Patty Holohan's book. So Patty also definitely took issue with John Kavanaugh. Is no longer on speaking terms with Kavanaugh. So first thing to talk about here is just the idea of an affiliation fee and whether or not this is standard, and whether or not it's even a good business practice on top of that. To my understanding, schools like Gracie Barra, Gracie Academy, a lot of older Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools, they do have an affiliation fee. And to an extent, if you think about it from a business standpoint, it makes sense. If I'm going to start my own academy and I have, say, the Gracie Barra name on top of it, that Gracie Barra name definitely holds value. And it holds marketing value for me. But on top of the marketing value, when you're within an affiliation, another value that's there is that my students, not only are they able to train at my academy, but they can also train at another academy that's part of the same affiliation. That's one benefit of it. Another thing to think about, though, is when you run a martial arts school, the people who are paying you, not only are they your customers, but they're also assets for you. So if you have a bunch of people who are all white belts that are paying you, in a way that they can be less valuable assets than if you have like purple belts, brown belts, black belts who are paying you, because a lot of people decide where to train based on the quality of training. So what that ends up meaning is that if you have like a high level students, we'll say a brown belt who pays you to train at your school, not only are they paying you as a customer, but they're also offering value to other people who say, oh, hey, this brown belt also trains here, so I can get more higher quality training there. And one of the nice things about affiliations is that you're going to see people from the same affiliation also travel into your school, and oftentimes they'll be colored belts. So it means at times you can even offer high quality training at your own school, being a part of an affiliation. The affiliation that I'm under right now is one where they don't charge individual schools, and it seems like SBG was under the same type of situation where they weren't charging schools to be part of SBG. It's just like, hey, if you come from an SBG school and you want to start your own gym, that's fine. Like you can have the name. We're cool with it. And down the line, they decide, hey, look, there is value in being associated with SBG, and we want to actually get some financial value out of it. So the issue here, to me, isn't so much that SBG was asking for money, because let's be fair, especially in Ireland, which is where this was, you would have to think that after Conor McGregor and a lot of the other guys from the SBG team started gaining some fame, that the SBG name, the SBG brand really does mean a lot for gyms in Ireland. If you're running a jiu-jitsu school and it's an SBG gym, if you're taking a white belt who's never trained jiu-jitsu before and they're getting into it now because they recognize Conor McGregor from SBG, that's a big asset to have that SBG logo in your gym. So I don't know that the idea of SBG wanting to charge their affiliates to have that logo is necessarily a bad thing. If I ran a franchise for McDonald's, it's not like I would be paying fees to McDonald's. Like franchisees typically pay fees. In jiu-jitsu, in some cases they don't, in other cases they do. It seems like in this case there was that switch from them not charging it to them then charging it. I think in this case what you would want to do is have it more of like a grandfather situation where you grandfather them in. So especially with someone like Tom King, who is one of their top black belts, say, hey, look, like we're not going to charge you. And maybe even for the ones who are currently there, like, hey, look, we're not going to charge you, but moving forward, this is something that we're going to charge for. Or at the very least, like try to at least negotiate it, maybe where it's like a small percentage of membership fees, so you're not charging someone a flat fee. Because if you're starting a gym, it's tough to break even. It takes a while to break even, and adding on a €5,000 a year fee, it's definitely making it harder for the people who are trying to run these businesses. So to me, if what Tom King is saying is relatively true, in that there actually was a meeting, they actually did charge money, you could definitely say the meeting could have been run better. You could argue that maybe you don't want to charge all the current affiliates who are used to paying nothing and all of a sudden say, hey, look, you got to pay this, or you got to switch affiliations now. I don't know that they went about it in the right way, but I also don't know that SBG feeling as though they should be able to capitalize off of their name, which has a lot of value in Ireland, is necessarily wrong. So to me, yes, it doesn't look great for John Kavanaugh to have this sort of story told about him, but I don't know that I take this and have really changed my opinion on John Kavanaugh. I would like to have him come out and at least give his side of the story so we can understand a little bit better. But if it is what it seems like it is, and his side of the story is essentially, hey, look, like we're bringing a lot of value. The SBG name is something that we built up, and we deserve to be compensated for it. I don't know that he's completely wrong in that. So to me, that's the story that we have now. Hopefully the story develops and we learn more from it, but it's hard. I understand where Tom King's coming from. I feel like if I was in his situation and I was part of an SBG affiliate and they were saying, hey, look, we're going to charge you this and you got to sign it right now, and they try to press me into it, I'd be like, no, fuck you. I'm not going to do that. And I'd probably go off on my own, and that's exactly what he did. So I understand where he's coming from. From Kavanaugh and Thornton's side, where they're like, hey, look, we built something big here. We built something with value. I think it's fair that we're compensated for it. I can understand at least that thought about it. I don't know that the execution was proper, but to me, it's just one of those things where you can spin it a bunch of different ways. I'm sure Kavanaugh would say, hey, look, Tom King, like you're getting a lot of value out of the SBG brand that I built. Like, of course you should be kicking some of it back to me. And I think that's a fair point. So to me, I don't know that anyone's completely right in this. I don't know that anyone's completely wrong, but it was interesting. It was an interesting story that definitely involves a lot of people who are high up in the jiu-jitsu community in Ireland. And I figured it was worth talking about.